just for you? At Cotton Cuts Retreats, all you have to do is show up with your sewing machine, and we'll handle the rest. Spend your days sewing with new friends, learning from expert educators, and enjoying inspiring workshops, activities, and local excursions. From cozy accommodations and pre-cut kits to perfectly planned shop hops, every detail is taken care of so you can relax, create, and explore a new city. Choose from our week-long retreat or a shorter escape to fit your schedule. Your quilting vacation is waiting. Check out all our upcoming retreats at cottoncutsretreats.com.
The big reveal's coming.
The big reveal's coming.
The big reveal's coming.
Big reveal is coming.
There's a big reveal coming?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Facebook. And good morning, Instagram. It is Thursday. It is 9:30. It is Cotton Cuts time. Oh my gosh, I am so excited. We have a fun show today, guys. We're going to learn a new skill. We're going to help demystify something that I feel is something most quilters avoid because it's hard. So I'm hoping today, by the end of the show, I will give you enough confidence to go forth, try something new, learn a new skill, and open the door to something fantastic. I'm seeing people check in. So very windy and chilly Missouri. I feel like Missouri is in this, I think fall has stuck now. Our soccer practice, we ended our last soccer practice last night. And I feel like that's the original, like fall is here, fall is sticking. Congratulations. This is the sweater weather you've been waiting for. Good morning from New Hampshire, San Antonio, Texas. Oh, Linda, I don't think we've ever talked about this, but I actually grew up in Prescott. So every time I see something go to Prescott Valley, I know exactly where that is, Linda. Not very many people know where Prescott Valley is on the map, but I definitely do. Good morning from Pensacola. Good morning from Mississippi. Good morning from everyone checking in. All right. Let's jump on into this. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We are in this kind of, we're a redheaded stepchild show today because yesterday we had something fun on island hopping. Tomorrow we have something fun on flyaway. So it is this kind of, what are we going to sandwich in and keep you guys excited? And I think we've done it. So hang with me because we're going to learn about half rectangle triangles. And you guys are going to be believers at the end and be off and sewing these with no problem at all. Good morning, Liz Dubois from Dallas. Good morning, Jacqueline. All right, so let's start as we always do with questions that are submitted by you guys. Go to cottoncuts.com/live to submit your question. These are handed to me. I don't necessarily get to see them ahead of time, and we'll see what Paula is choosing to surprise me with today. Good morning from Spokane, Washington, Denise. Okay, our first question comes for us from Jennifer Kowalski from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thank you so much for your question, Jennifer. Hi, Kim. My daughter just had a baby, and I wanted to make a quilt for my new granddaughter, but here's the problem. My daughter's house is very modern and minimalist, and all my quilts are traditional patterns with lots of florals. I don't want to make something that she'll just, give me a second, that she'll just fold up and put in a closet because it doesn't match her style. How do I make a baby quilt that fits a modern aesthetic when that's not really my comfort zone? Any suggestions for pattern or fabric choices that might work? Okay. I can relate to this question. So I am what I will consider to be now a traditional quilter, right? I like bright fabrics. I like florals. I like traditional block designs on a white background. So I am a, bright, happy quilts. But what I found when my nephews were born is that my sister-in-law's house is very, very gray. And it's very, very minimalist and it's very, very modern. And it is not in like a bright, warm palette that I traditionally associate with the house. And so I really struggled with this because I wanted to make a quilt for my nephews. These are, special people. I have special meaning, but I didn't know how to sew for this aesthetic. And so there's a couple of different levers you can adjust to be able to accommodate a color palette that might be outside your comfort zone. Because you definitely want to make a quilt that this child's going to love, this child's going to grow up with, that's not going to get folded and put in a closet, and that they're not ever going to use. You want to make quilts that are going to be used and they're going to be loved. And so the first thing that I would consider is fabric choices, right? So I know that if you're traditional kind of mode of floral, skew towards something a little bit more neutral in palette, like an art gallery collection. Art gallery does fantastic modern fabrics. That's actually what I ended up choosing for my nephews was I found a black, white, and gray art gallery collection fabric that was very modern. It still had prints in it, so I could still be true to myself, but the color palette skewed more modern and more minimalist. And my sister-in-law loved the quilt that I made for my oldest nephew. And I made pillows to go with it. And it was in the nursery. And the child still has those pillows and like flings them at his brother all the time. I also think that there's, when you're looking at your fabric choices, there's your color palette and there's your prints, but then there's also your patterns. And I know that when I come to like a modern traditional quilt block, I like putting bright colors in traditional blocks, but also at the same time, you can get away with a bigger block quilt. And I feel like that's something that if you're looking for modern and simplicity, big block quilts usually get the job done, because if you're able to make a bigger block, it's easier for you, can sew it together faster, but that also meets a minimalist criteria, is that it has a bigger block. You can still use a traditional block, but once you make it bigger, now it's modern and now it's minimalist, and it's not as traditional as you would typically think of. And then, you know, another thing I would look at is look at your daughter's home. Hopefully you've had a chance to visit your new grandbaby. Congratulations, by the way. But take a look at the home. Take a look at the nursery. See if perhaps there's paint chips that your daughter used when she was making the nursery or when she was putting colors inside the nursery that perhaps she can share with you. And that might be the backbone. And also, it is also absolutely totally fair and safe to ask. Be like, hey, I really want to make a quilt for my granddaughter. I know that my traditional aesthetic might not necessarily work. What do you think would make both you and the baby the happiest the long term? And so in that case, that I think if you hit all those levers, if you look at fabric choices, if you look at palette, if you look at pattern, and if you ask, I think you're going to increase your chances of making a quilt that both your daughter and your granddaughter are going to love. Okay, if you guys have any tips, I feel like this is not necessarily something that's unique to just this question, but I feel like it's something whenever we're gifting a quilt to someone who doesn't have the same design aesthetic or home aesthetic as us, sometimes we can struggle with that a little bit. So if you have any tips or tricks, definitely submit them into the chat wherever you are. Darcy's asking a question about flyaway clues, and I saw another one about you know, hey, we're missing some clues. So in that case, go ahead and email Carrie, but I'm going to talk about that in a second here as well, just so that way we can get you guys all your clues and make sure you guys stay up to date as quickly as possible. Marlene's asking Tula Pink's new gray work. Yes, that would be a fantastic kind of collection that has a neutral palette but actually has a lot of prints in it. And so I feel like that's a great collection, Marlene, that could bridge this gap for making a quilt for a nursery. All right. And Greta's absolutely right. Email help@Cotton Cuts and we'll get you all fixed up. All right. So fantastic. Thank you so much for the question, Jennifer. Okay. Oh yeah. And I also sorry, a random thought just came to me. So your daughter is probably of a generation where she uses Pinterest. Perhaps she has a Pinterest board that might give you some inspiration and some ideas for the space for your grandchild. All right. All right. Next question comes to us from Marsha Williams from Tampa, Florida. Thanks so much for the question, Marsha. Hey, Cotton Cuts. I recently bought my first long arm quilting machine. Woo, I'm very jealous. And I'm completely overwhelmed. I've been quilting for years, but always sent my tops out to be finished. Now that I'm doing it myself, I'm realizing I have no idea what I am doing. Do you have any advice for someone who's brand new to long arm quilting? Should I take a class or just practice on my own? Or how do I stop being terrified of ruining a quilt top I spent months making? Okay. So Marsha, you're not alone. You bought a new piece of equipment. It's expensive. You don't want to mess it up. However, you've got to start doing little itty bitty bits and pieces at a time. I think taking the class is an absolute fantastic first kind of stop in the how do you get acquainted with your machine? Because in a class, you're going to learn not only technique, you're not only going to learn how to actually use the long arm machine, but they're going to teach you all the features. They're going to teach you all the knobs. They're going to teach you all the buttons. And so you will have more knowledge about how your machine works by taking a class than by just practicing on your own and trial and error and learning. And so I know that I was sewing for years. And then when Lincoln was born, I got a sewing machine and I actually took a sewing class. And I learned so much more about my machine in that class, even though I had years of experience. I'd made lots of stuff. I knew what I was doing. But in that one class, I learned so many tips and tricks that I might not necessarily have picked up on my own because I wouldn't have even known to ask the question. So I think a class, especially on the investment you've made in this machine, a class is a fantastic first stop. And you want a class that's going to teach you technique, but also everything about your machine as well. And then once you get home, I would suggest not waiting. You got to jump on your machine as quickly as possible, because what oftentimes happens is we take classes, we learn new techniques, and then we shelve it. Or we, take a project, take a block of the month class, we take a new technique class, and then we shelve it. And by the time we bring it off, it takes us so much more time to dust it off and relearn it. So I'm going to suggest that after you take that class, you get on your machine and you start practicing. And so I'm seeing a lot of tips here on the side. So I want to talk about them a little bit. And so because you guys have fantastic suggestions. And so Darla, hi Darla, is talking about talk to the person you've used as a long armor in the past. They likely have resources, tips, and tricks. That's a fantastic resource. The person you've used in the past could give you tips and tricks and things that they have learned. Buy them a coffee, buy them lunch, and I'm sure they'll share all their knowledge with you for that. Natalia Bonner has some lovely free online long arm lessons. Yes. So that's also another bit. Take the in-person class. I'm an in-person learner. Most quilters are visual. Take that in person. But then there's people like Natalia that have fantastic online classes. There are so many people offering online classes that if you have a very specific request, if you type it into YouTube, there's going to be videos there. If you type it into Google, there's going to be blogs and articles. So many people have knowledge online that if you get stuck with a specific problem, that's a fantastic, fantastic place to go. Jan is actually getting to what I was going to talk about next, which is now that you've taken the class, what do you do? And so Jana suggests get a panel or a yard of ugly fabric that you can practice on without fear of ruining a pretty top. I think anything you want to put in your machine just to practice on. So that way, definitely don't put that, pieced quilt that you spent a lot of money on. Start with something small. It doesn't even have to be, a panel. It can be something along the lines of a sheet. It can just be anything that you want to play on and practice on, and just get a feel for the machine, get a feel for the swirls, get a feel for all the different pantos that you can use, and just start playing until you build up that confidence to actually work on a real quilted project. Let's see here. Watch lots of YouTube videos, practice sandwiches. Yes. Angela Walters has many videos and she's so supportive. I will second that, Janet. Angela Walters is fantastic. She kind of is this real quilter. She doesn't have the super highly glossy stuff. She's definitely, this is the real side of quilting and long arming. Angela's fantastic. And so I would say, your first project, don't put in that really expensive quilt top. However, once you're ready, once you've got that, once you're past beginner and you're into confident beginner, that's when you want to start putting in small projects. And so you can put in some pillows, you can start putting in some placemats, some table runners, some wall hangings. And that's where you can really start to just practice and start small. Don't put anything big in there, because there's so much technique with loading a big quilt top into the machine. You don't want to worry about, did I load it correctly? You want to worry about, did I quilt it correctly? And so to do that, start with the small project, start with that table runner, start with a bed runner, start with anything that's small, perhaps even a lap quilt, just so that way you can get used to feeling how it actually feels to quilt. And then once you're confident with your technique, you can then build up to a longer quilt that's going to take, where you got to work on the loading and making sure the loading is correct. And then you can work on a larger technique. Okay. I feel like that's killed all of my knowledge on long arm quilting. But if you guys are watching this and you guys have any suggestions, if you've bought that machine and gotten stuck, I think possibly, Marcia, one of the worst things to do is buy it, build it, put it in your basement, and never use it. Joe Mosley has this fantastic idea. This is another really good one as well. So practice on community giveaway quilts that are small. So it can be a quilt, and then that way, so as long as you're not feeling like you're wasting it, it can be a quilt that you can donate, right? There's a lot of needy folks in communities, especially this time of year. So if you want to start on a small quilt and then donate it, that's a fantastic use of your practiced quilts. I think that's great. Let's see here. Liz is talking about, she just learned about water dissolvable thread to use on practice sandwiches, skill builder blocks. I have a new Quilty Breeze and will use there to practice. Yeah, I feel like that's it feels like Star Trek-y, but evidently, so there's water dissolvable thread, which Liz is going to try, and she will come back and tell us how it works. But that's a great way to practice and then dissolve the thread and be able to restore back to whatever project you are working on. So, but I guess the question is, Liz, I think you can only use it to practice. You wouldn't want to use water dissolvable thread in a real project, because once you washed it, it's gone, unless it's a wall hanging, in which case then I think it'd be okay to use. But I think it's an interesting, Liz, you have to let us know how this works. I feel like this might be like the friction pen, where you're marking on your projects and it's supposed to go away and then it comes back. I would love to know, Liz, if this works or not. Please, please, please keep us updated and posted. All right, Marcia, I hope that's helpful for you. Definitely check the comments. There's lots of long armers in the group and people that have used long arms. It's a fantastic way to kind of build those skills, but you have to get on the machine and you have to start using it and you have to start practicing. Please don't delay. Don't let it collect dust. All right. Marlene's saying that the water dissolvable thread is great for basting. Yes, and only on practice pieces. I feel like that's a great. Anytime you put thread in place and you want to be able to make it go away, that'd be fantastic use. All right, so let's talk about things going on in the shop. You guys, we are shipping machines this week. We have filled every day 2 to 3 mail trucks every day this week, last week, at the end of the week as well. And so it is bonkers the amount of things that are leaving here. Like, we're making tons of space for our next mystery quilt to come in, which is always this cycle we're on. So the first update is clue 4 of Under the Sea, shipped last week. You guys have been posting these blocks. You guys are on it. I'm impressed. You guys are keeping up with this Under the Sea. It is fantastic. Keep posting your photos. Keep posting your encouragement. I love seeing that. We have shipped a ton of Rosa's Holiday Your Way. We are almost done shipping Rosa's Holiday Your Way, so that way everything can be in place by December 1st, so you can count down to the holidays as you wish. We have a few left. We have a few fabric boxes left. We have a few notions boxes left. Once we start opening it, I guarantee you guys are going to be sad. You're going to wish that you'd gotten them. Please, please, please order them now. I'm going to warn you guys when you get them. So we have our normal boxes that we've used to do for Rosa's Holiday Away for many, many years. Those notions boxes, those notions and gifts are like double stuff. I feel like we packed you guys double stuff Oreos because we put so much awesome, fantastic stuff in there. So if you have not gotten your notions and gift, please, please, please go get it, because once I start opening it, you're going to wish you did, and they will probably be sold out. And I don't want to have to tell you that. All right. Let's see here. We also sent out tons of island hopping kits in the past week as well. That mystery started yesterday. And so it was a big day. Clue 1 started yesterday. We have 5 clues. The 5th clue is our big reveal. So that'll happen in early December. Island hopping is fun. Island hopping for cotton cuts, we interpreted it to be all holiday themed prints and collections. And it has some new shapes in it, which is the catalyst for today's show. So if you've gotten that clue 1, which always, whenever we're emailing out clues, we always store them in the CCPD, Cotton Cuts Police Department evidence locker. That's where we put all of your clues. So if, for example, you didn't get an email from us, or you accidentally deleted it, or you downloaded the file and you lost the download, we always put everything in the Cotton Cuts PD evidence locker, so that way you can access it. It's 10 o'clock at night. We're not working at 10 o'clock at night. We love you guys. We're not working at 10 o'clock at night, but you need that clue. You can log in to the evidence locker and you can download it at all hours of the day. You will always have access to all the clues that you have joined. So if you've joined a mystery late, all those clues are going to live there. You will have access to the swatch cards. For Mystery 5.0, we put together companion videos as well with tips and tricks. And so those live in the evidence locker as well. If you are participating in island hopping and you do not know what the evidence locker is, please send an email to help@Cotton Cuts and we will get you all sorted, because we want you guys to have access to all of that information so you have it when you need it, so that way you're not stuck, because that's the worst feeling. You finally have carved out time to sew and you don't have the clue. We want to make sure that that's as painless as possible for you, which is why we created this evidence locker, so you can definitely get access to all the information you need as you're stitching away. Let's see here. Oh, and then we also, as we're kind of cleaning out space in the shop, we've uploaded all of the extra fabric we have left over for island hopping, for Aloha, and for Flyaway. We're adding just a few more SKUs for Flyaway because we're cutting back in kits, and so we have a little bit of fabric left over. But if you participated in any of those programs and you want to add borders, you want to add backing, you want to add a pillowcase, you want to add an accent, whatever you guys want to do, let's see here. Oh, Terry, I'm going to come back to that in a second. So whatever you guys want to do, all those extra fabric by the yard is in the shop now. However, I always say this, when they're gone, they're gone. So we're not ordering more island hopping or Aloha or Flyaway fabric. So once they're gone, they're gone. I would check in. If you checked in earlier this week or last week, we've added more fabrics for a Flyaway. So if you missed out, definitely check in. There's probably fabric there for you. If not, send us a note to help@Cotton Cuts and we will help source the fabric. We'll give you the SKUs so that way you can get the exact fabric that was used in any of your projects. So that way you can find an exact match instead of guessing. All right. So Terry is saying that the evidence locker is also on the PMQ tab. So if you go to Puzzle Mystery Quilts and scroll down, the evidence locker button is there and it'll take you to the site as well. Thank you, Terry. That's a fantastic tip in case you get lost. All right. What's that? Oh, sorry. I'm so excited to talk about the evidence locker. I almost forgot to show you guys. So this is island hopping clue 1 here. This was done by Dawn on my team. And so for those of you that are participating in island hopping, you are going to be intimately familiar with this 9 patch. There's actually 2 different 9 patches. Let me see if I can, hold on. I got a bag of all of Dawn's 9 patches here. So let me get the second 9 patch out. And so half of them have the fabric in one orientation, and the other half of them have the fabric in the other orientation. This is, as I said in the tips and tricks video, like get your stretch on, get your podcast out, get your binge show on, because these, you're going to be making a lot of these for clue 1. The good news is once you're done with that, you'll not be making any more 9 patches for island hopping, but I'm seeing lots of tips and tricks about breaking them down into units of 24. Join the Mystery 50 Facebook group, and people are all posting tips and tricks on how to get it done. Yes, and our store has a lot going on, and I haven't even gotten to some of the really, really good stuff either. I mean, no, it's all good stuff. What am I saying? It's all good stuff. Yes. So let's see here. Island hopping, it's going to finish. And so a quick reminder, we did not, for Rose's Holiday Your Way, do a mini mystery this year. Normally we've done the countdown boxes, and we've done the Scrappy Happy, and then we've always done kind of a mini table runner or a mini placemat project. This island hopping is taking the place of that. There's a lot going on for us. There would also be a lot going on for you if we did both. And so we decided to just do the one. And so it is just the island hopping. Next year might be different because we're going to be in a different timeline, but we will come back to that when we get there. Let's see here. All right. So coming up this week. So tomorrow we have a big deal going on tomorrow. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock Central Time, you are going to want to watch us live on Facebook and on YouTube, because we are going to be revealing the final design for Flyaway. Flyaway was a puzzle mystery quilt that started for us in February. It's been 10 months in the making. We have had, I think it's 12 colorways, maybe 13 colorways come together. Tomorrow, we will be revealing live for everyone at the same time the finished design. So you guys will get to see smalls, you'll get to see larges, you'll get to see, I think probably by the end of the show, maybe 7 or 8 different colorways. We're going to have guests. We have lots of people that join us. We will also show those of you that have submitted guesses to whoever got the closest. So if you have been playing with your blocks and laying them out, we're going to show who got the closest. I don't know if did anyone get it exactly right? Oh, Paulette, what's that now? Okay, so we've got, she's saying exactly, not sure, but close, yes, some. And so I would say go ahead and tune in, and your guess might get shown during the live. It's always fun. I know that unfortunately we can't put it on Instagram because the video is so darn long, but it'll be on Facebook and it'll be on YouTube. All right. And don't forget, on Saturday this week, we're going to have a very special Zoom sew-along. So this is going to be open to everyone that's completing Flyaway. And it'll also be open to those of you that are sewing island hopping. Normally when we do Mystery 50, we like to have a Saturday social that's more virtual. There's prompts in the group with questions and giveaways and fun prizes. What we're going to do is we're actually going to host that in person. We're going to put everyone all together. So we're going to bring all the Flyaway detectives with all the Mystery 50 detectives, and we're going to host a 4-hour sewing event. You don't have to be there the whole time. I get it. It's a Saturday in November. It's crazy in my house too. But we're going to host it for everyone who wants to be there and who wants to sew together. So Robin's hosting this for us. Yes, Robin will be hosting it for us. And so maybe she puts everyone Mystery 50. Maybe she just randomly mixes you guys up. But anyways, it'll be for 4 hours. Both groups will be there. You don't have to be there the whole time. And we give prizes away every hour just for being there and having fun with us and sewing on your Saturday with us. And so be sure to join that 10 to 2 Central Time. All right. So as we look ahead, so patch 30, I think patch 365 is Melissa Showalter sewing her clue 9 now. That's fantastic. You are just in time. If you've ordered backing or border kits or a Stitch It kit for Flyaway, we started shipping those on Monday. All of those will be shipped on Friday. All of the clue 10s will be shipped on Friday. Now, if you're participating monthly, you guys know you get the paper clue in the mail. We're actually going to email the finished assembly instructions to everyone participating in Flyaway at the exact same time. So whether or not you prepaid or whether or not you participated monthly, that way everyone can participate on Saturday without having to wait for their physical package to arrive. We don't want you to have to miss out on sewing with everybody because you don't have those finishing instructions. So everyone will get Clue 10 at the same time. I believe it's 1:15. We kind of pick 15 minutes, because that's usually how long it takes me to get to show the first finished design. But we send it out to everyone at 1:15, so you have those instructions, and so you can sew with everyone together on Saturday. All right, did I get everything on Flyaway? I think I'm getting a nod. I think I got everything on Flyaway. Let's see here. Marlene, you busted your full wrist last week. And so I busted my left hand, and I have been trying to rotary cut, and it has been quite painful. So it makes me appreciate pre-cut parts and pieces that much more. But it's finally on the mend, but I could not rotary cut this morning. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this one. I get it, Marlene. I feel your pain. All right, things that are happening next week, because we need more to do here. We're going to be shipping Java and Chroma. So our Java bundles were here at some point in time. It's okay. I showed them last week. So they're lovely fall browns, batiks, all coordinated. And then we're going to be shipping our Chroma, which that thread color this month is brown as well. It's in a fall time, right? So November is very fall. So we're going to do browns, lots of earth tones. Paula is running, and look at this. She's going to make me reach for it. Okay. So this is our November Java. So if you're a member of our Java club, or if you're a platinum member and you chose Java this month, this is the bundle you will be receiving. All right, so let's talk about half rectangle triangles, because we've talked a ton about things going on here. Let's talk about fun stuff now. Yes, what? Oh, I gotta talk about retreats. Okay, so don't forget, you guys. We are going places next year. So we have, I think, 3 official dates announced for Denver, for Savannah, and for New Orleans. We will have 3 more dates to be announced here very soon. Sign up for Cotton Cuts Retreats at cottoncutsretreats.com. Get your spot in place. I think they're now about half sold out each. You guys do not want to miss out on this. This is going to be a ton of fun. Those groups that went with us to New Orleans the first time, and those that went with us Sonoma, like, I love watching those photos. It brings back so many memories and all the fun that we had. So definitely be sure that you're signing up for the retreats. It's $250 deposit, and then there's payment plans to get you to the dates. So sign up. You don't want to miss out on your spot. We've got instructors and projects and fun and merriment and connection and community in a world where most of us communicate virtually. We want to bring back an in-person experience, but do it in a different way than everyone else. And it is fun. All right. So Terry loves browns and earth tones. Paula is amazing. Paula is amazing. Paula is amazing. Paula is amazing. All right. All right. You just made Paula's day. Fantastic. All right. All right. So let's talk about half rectangle triangles and how these are different and how these are hard. And so I want to talk about, why are we talking about half rectangle triangles first? And so first is our Mystery 5-0 Island Hopping has a half rectangle triangle shape in the finished design. For those of you that have gotten the pre-cut kits, they're in there, they're lurking, they're coming. And so it's important for us to understand what makes a good half rectangle triangle. And it is also, I saw Bonnie Hunter is doing her annual mystery quilt, and she is also using half rectangle triangles. So when things like this happen, when we have big programs that use common shapes, it starts to be something that we're going to see again and again and again. And so we thought it would be timely to talk about half rectangle triangles on this show to get you guys confident enough to try it, to love it, and to embrace it, because we're going to start to see more of it coming into the future. So I had Paula pull some photos of some inspiring quilt designs that use half rectangle triangles. And so she's going to show them on the Facebook feed and on the YouTube feed. And so here are some quilts that are made using half rectangle triangles. And so I want to talk about this. The notes that I have for the show talk about how the difference between a square and a rectangle, guys. So every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. And so I want to start first with a shape that we all know and love. So we all know this guy. We all know our half square rectangle, right? Our half square triangle, excuse me. And so it's got, these equilateral triangles that are sewn together. We sew them on the diagonal. This is a common building block for quilters. If I was to ask a quilter to make a half square triangle block, they could do this. And this little lovely guy, you can rotate it. You can do so many things with it. It is very easy to sew. It is very easy to make, and it is very versatile. You can put a whole bunch of them together. You can rotate some, and you can build a lot of interesting shapes with this. This quilters can do very confidently, very easily. and not a problem at all. Once we get into this shape, this is where the wheels kind of come off the bus a little bit for a lot of people. And so once we start talking about a half rectangle triangle, it is technically defined as something that it's longer than it is wide. I mean, that's kind of a rectangle gain, and it has 90 degrees in the corners, right? Again, this is what defines a rectangle. But in order for it to be half triangle, it has this diagonal edge along the side here. And so why is it hard? So the first reason why it's hard is that this has a very long bias edge to it. So we've talked about biased edges on a lot of previous shows. And when we talk about them in this context, it's usually pretty easy. This is probably one of the strongest biased edges because it's at a 45-degree angle for your triangle. Once we start talking about this, now depending on it, it could be a 30 and 60-degree triangle. Angles in your corners. And once you have that long run and you are not at a 45-degree edge, you've got some bias edges that can be pretty terrifying for folks to actually sew up. And you've got that long edge. The other piece to it is you have to unwind everything you know and love about this shape in order to be able to sew this shape. Because this one is not as universal as this guy. Like this way and this way, it's got a couple of different directions to it. It's not the same this direction as it is this direction as opposed to this guy. So your dimensions are going to be very different. And then the other bit that's problematic is what I showed you when we first started. When you do half rectangle triangles, you can actually make two different shapes. And so sometimes it's called left slant and right slant. Sometimes it's called left facing and right facing. And so I know that in our traditional quilting world, we're used to making our squares and we cut them all on the diagonal and we get them all cut and then we chain piece, we chain piece, we chain piece, we chain piece. And before you know it, we've got this universal building block that we know, love, and can use. If you take this design and you cut them all on the same angle and you stitch them all together, you're going to end up with all shapes that are like this and none that look like this. None that look like this. And the beauty of using this shape is the ability to put these together and get those nice points that you like right there. Wheels and brakes come off. Yes. So in this case, right, you want to be able to have some of this and some of this. And so if you fall into your traditional quilting comfort zone, cut, 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 sew, you're going to end up missing how to make two different shapes that are going to add so many elements and layers and designs to your quilt. And so the left face and right face is important. When you're working with this shape, it's important to know if they're all left face, if they're all right face, or if they're half and half. And so make sure that you're paying attention to that. And I'm going to show you how it can be confusing in just a minute. There are a couple different techniques on how to sew this shape. So I'm going to start first with you have no fancy rulers, you have no fancy gadgets, and nothing is pre-cut. So say you want to make a 3-inch by 6-inch half rectangle triangle. So what most commonly is done in a world with no fancy rulers, no fancy techniques, is you cut it bigger and then you trim it down. And the general rule of thumb is that you add 1 inch extra to the width and 2 inches longer to the length. And so you're going to cut both of your pieces of fabric in this direction. You're going to make 2 of them at a time that are both either left facing or right facing. So you're going to cut this here and you're going to have, in my case, another piece of blue paper, and you're going to cut them 1 inch width more and 2 inch longer. Now, when you put them together, right sides together, because we're quilters, and so I'm not going to ask you to unwind that, thankfully, but when you put them right sides together, you're going to then cut them on the diagonal. This is one method. And when you guys look at tutorials, you're going to see this. This is a pretty common method. So you're going to cut it at its angle. Now, this is important because that cut is very different than this cut. So you need to be paying attention. Are you cutting it this way or are you going to be cutting it this way? Because that is how you get the two different triangle shapes, is it depends on your cut. So as I was saying just a minute ago, if you cut them all this way, you're only ever going to make one of those shapes. You have to alternate the diagonal that you cut. And I know when we're looking at those squares, it doesn't matter which points you cut diagonally. But in this case, it very much does. And it starts at this step when you're cutting on that diagonal. And so in this case, you put your 2 right sides together and you are going to cut on your diagonal. Now, when you get it, we as quilters are commonly programmed to, hey, we've cut it on that angle and I'm going to keep my right sides together. And because I am used to doing squares, I'm just going to stitch right here and I'm going to stitch on the other one on the other side and think, oh my gosh, this is great. I just made my shape. But in actuality, what happens when you do this is you're going to make a beautiful kite, which is not a rectangle and is not what you're looking for. So I know that we get used to just, hey, we're going to stack the shapes together, right sides together. We're going to line up all our edges and we're going to sew on the edge we want to sew on. You are going to end up with a kite. You don't want a kite. You want a rectangle. So what you're actually going to do, and I was trying to explain this to Mr. Cotton Cuts this morning, and he was having none of it. And he's a math guy. He's a smart guy. Is that instead of sewing it this way, what you actually need to do is take in this cut, the top one here and the back one here, and you're going to stack them together. And what you're going to do is you actually stitch it across the top like this. So I was thinking this morning, this is akin to kind of those points in a dress shirt. And so when you're stitching them, you want them to be off-centered. And that goes against everything we're hardwired to do. Like when you're making these, like you're always taught to make sure that you line your squares up and you sew on it. But this is the opposite of that. So this would be the right side of my fabric. This would be the right side of my fabric. And you're going to stitch along this edge here. Now, when you're doing this, this is the other bit that is also unwinding almost everything you've been learned. You want these little dog ears to hang off to the side about 1/4 inch on both the front and the back. Because it's an odd angle, because it's not 45 degrees, you have to have those ears hanging off the sides. So that way, when you press and flip it, it actually comes out as a rectangle. Again, this is what you have to do if you are cutting squares and if you're cutting rectangles from yardage, you don't have a ruler and you don't have a pre-cut kit. You want those tails to hang off just a little bit on both sides and you want to stitch. And then what happens is magically you've got this guy, right? So by stitching on that side, you're going to get one of these. And so you're just going to repeat that. You're going to sew the right sides together. You're going to offset your points a little bit and bam, you're going to have exactly what you need. Making sure that you cut correctly. So are you using cut 1 or cut 2, stitch them together, bam, you've got the pieces that you need. Okay. What's happened though, is because we cut it bigger than we actually needed, we have to trim it down. I like this method if I don't have a ruler or pre-cut part and piece, because there's a lot of variability in this. There could be opportunities for error. So say, for example, I'm going to zoom in, like say if my point is like this or like this, like there can be variability. And if I'm sewing, as Jana just said, 16 of these, right? Any sort of variability like that, you want to be able to adjust after it's sewn rather than try to get it perfectly through your machine, depending on the type of quilter you are. And so by making it bigger, you're actually going to get this piece. You will use your traditional ruler, your traditional mat. You're going to line up your angle and you are going to square it off. It's not as easy as a square, guys, because you can't just cut here a certain amount and cut here a certain amount, because look what happened to my diagonal. It's no longer centered. So you have to be very careful when you cut smaller that you're going to go on the inside of it to make sure that your corners match your points. Again, lots of tutorials online on how to trim it down when you make it bigger, because remember, we made it bigger when we did 1 inch and 2 inches on the sides. And so by stitching it, you're going to actually trim it down to the 3.5 by 6.5, to the 4.5 by 7.5, whatever you're looking for. You're going to trim it down so that way all of your pieces are the same dimension. That's part of the cost of adding these dimensions to the beginning, is that you then have to subsequently trim it. This is not a no waste method. This is a 2 at a time. Secrets to good points. It is really down to, on this shape, you have to know where your hypothetical intersection is going to be. And so the tutorials will talk to you about that, because you don't necessarily want your corner to end perfectly at that intersection. It does need a little bit of a seam allowance because these are not 45-degree angles. But all the good tutorials will show you, they have pictures of your rulers on there, and it'll tell you exactly, like you want 1/8 of an inch to the left or 1/8 of an inch down. That is the tip and trick here. And so you don't have to worry about necessarily having these points in the corner be good, because you're going to trim it down and you're going to make sure that your final points are good. Okay, so that is the easiest, most traditional non-tool. Yes, Darla, geometry. Yes. So Darla's son and my son are both taking, Dominic are both taking geometry right now. And so all these geometric terms, yes, I can tell you I have been studying with them clearly. So that is the way to do it in a world where like this is the beginning, this is the kind of the starting point, is to do it the way I've just described to you. Now, if you want to do it slightly differently, this is an alternate way that that I've learned to do it. And I've tried this because it feels like it's a little less deviating from a traditional quilting technique. And so you take your two squares, or your two rectangles, excuse me, you line them up, and what you actually do is you rotate it. And so you take your second one and you rotate it to the opposite diagonal. And you're going to have to pin this because, guys, there's a lot of stuff here. And so what you do is you stitch it on the dotted lines, doop, doop, and then you cut it on the solid line, which is the diagonal between your points. And bam, you've made two at a time now. This one's good because it holds those bias edges together. You're stitching before you cut it. So chances of your biased edges moving are less, because you're actually cutting it while you're sewing it while it's still whole before you've cut out those biased edges. And so again, this one flips me out because, like most of us, I'm used to seeing this and I want to stitch on those dotted lines and cut it, but you actually just rotate it off center and bam, and now you've got your two half rectangle triangles in a slightly different way. Same thing though, because you've cut them bigger, because you've cut them like this, you are going to have to trim them down. But again, there's a lot of tutorials to show you ruler placement. And once you do a couple, you'll be off and running and firing away. Okay. I have pushed a lot of papers around on my desk today. All right. So that's how you do it in a world where you cut it bigger and then you trim it smaller. One of the ways in which our island hopping detectives are going to learn how to do this is through tutorials put on by the Mystery 50 group using this little ruler. And so there's a Creative Grids ruler. It is a half rectangle trim tool. This is a way to do a 2 at a time half rectangle triangle. And so the tutorials that are going to be on the evidence locker from the Mystery 50 team are going to tell you how to use this tool. And so you can see it's already got your grids on it. So you can trim down to all of your angles. You can put your piece in here. You can sew it bigger and put it in here. And this will help you trim it because look, it's got that angle for you right there. So you know exactly what you're doing. You're going to put that angle right into that line and you're going to trim it down. And it's going to give you the half rectangle triangle that you need. You can also, I can play with this all day, guys, but you can put this here and it'll trim it just a little bit for you. But the idea is that this takes out any sort of complicated, angles. If 30 and 60 degrees, 30 and it's not your thing, this will help simplify it because all you have to do is lay your part and piece in here, you line up your angles, and then you trim it. And don't forget, anytime we're using rulers, we want those lines, we want the black lines to be on top of your fabric. We don't want it to be off your fabric. We want that black line to be on your fabric when you're cutting and when you're trimming. Yes, so for all of these, it is recommended 1 inch wider, 2 inch longer if you're going to be trimming them down. So this is the ruler that the Mystery 50 team is recommending. This is also the ruler that Bonnie Hunter is recommending for her mystery as well, using half rectangle triangles. Now, this is expensive, right? I get it, guys. We have these in the shop. Not everyone can afford these. There are other alternatives to using that specific ruler. Block Lock, which is a fantastic company, makes rulers that have grooves on the bottom side. So there's going to be a groove on this back side. And what you can do is you lay the Block Lock ruler on top of your seam and it'll actually lock it in place and you can trim around it to make sure that you hold all the dimensions around your line. Now, there's all sorts of rulers and gadgets and gizmos you guys can use for this as well. There's Deb Tucker has another ruler as well. When it comes down to it, this is really the one that I see the most talking about because it's just so easy to use and it is the most successful. When you're cutting and trimming these down. Plus, you do them 2 at a time. It says it's no waste. I think it might be a little bit of a waste. You know, you've got that inches that you're cutting around. But like I said, the tutorial from Mystery 50 is going to follow all of that. Melissa Feldhout, yes, we're going to talk about what to do when you start sewing these. I'm just showing you kind of methodology to give you some insight when you're looking at tools online. The last one is one that I've never used for this, but could very easily work, and that's paper piecing. So you guys, there's templates out there for half rectangle, triangle paper pieces. If you want to just take your 2 pieces of fabric, lay them down, flip them over, fold, and then cut the paper to get the right shape, that definitely works as well. There is no knocking that. It is a fantastic use of the paper piecing technology. Paper piecing technique is to use paper piecing, flip them over. Then you don't have to worry about any of these angles. You don't have to worry about any of these shenanigans. You can come up with a template and say, and on your template, blue and pink. And so you just put your blue fabric here, put your pink fabric here, stitch them together, and you're done. It's super simple to do paper piecing. You can print that on a home printer. You don't have to do anything fancy for it as well, but it is another technique. It is a little slower because you're not cutting everything and just doing straight stitches. You've got the flip overs and you've got some scraps and everything left over, but it definitely, it is, if you are fearful of this and those biased edges, this does take some of that complexity off the table. The last one I want to show you is the Cotton Cuts die cut pieces. And so we've invested in a die here at Cotton Cuts that makes a finished 3x6 half rectangle triangle shape. And that's what we've included with our island hopping kits. And so for those of you that are participating in island hopping, these are the shapes you're going to get. So you can see you're going to get some that are left facing, some that are right facing. Here, I'm actually going to make this work correctly. We've cut off those dog ears for you. We are going to be creating a tutorial video for those that are participating in island hopping to show you how to line up these corners, to show you how to line up these corners so that way you can get perfect off the sewing machine 3.5 by 6.5 inch half rectangle triangles every time. And so we've been playing with it here. We've been testing it. We've got some tips and tricks. We're going to show you the technique, and then we're also going to tell you to practice, because we're going to have to practice this before we start zipping through chain piecing all of these. But when we've done the tests here, we've been able to take these pieces, we stitch them together. And that's actually, I mean, because I was using paper, that's what I used to make these guys. And so you can see there's just a little bit of a dog ear here and a little bit of a dog ear here. But when I measured this, this is exactly 3.5 by 6.5. Paula is absolutely right, Josie. These rulers we have in our shop right now. And there's actually, I think there's kind of a shortage of these. I don't think Creative Grids was anticipating 2 big programs to use this ruler at the same time. So it might be short in some places. I think we have maybe 5 or 10 here-ish. So if you have not gotten yours yet, I strongly encourage you guys to get over there soon. I don't know when we're going to be able to restock them. Okay, so do's and don'ts for these. So as you're starting to jump into these patterns that are calling for this shape, make sure to cut those rectangles in opposite directions when pairs are required, because it is just, it's that sometimes it's left, right. Sometimes it's bottom to top. Make sure that you, Janet, I'm going to come back to that. Make sure that you're cutting in the correct direction, because cutting direction does matter. Please don't get thinking that it's all one direction and everything is going to work out great. There are definitely 2 directions. That's the one piece I want you guys to take with you from this, is that cutting on that diagonal matters. Let's see here. Don't forget, in this case, this is one of those shapes, and I know Mystery 50 does this a lot, and there's a lot of groans whenever this happens. These seams should be pressed open. Because of the long biased edges, pressing those seams open will help them lay flatter, and it will also help hold your shape truer for longer if you are pressing them open. When you're trimming, when you're using any of these trim tools, when you're using your rulers, it is recommended to have a small rotary mat, so that way you're turning the mat instead of moving your shape around as you're trimming. That is just one of those tips and tricks, especially when you're doing a large volume of them, that will make them go faster. And make sure to label your left versus your right if your pattern uses both, right? And depending on the pattern you're using, make sure that is it left facing, right facing? Is it left slant or right slant? Those are used interchangeably, but make sure you're marking your parts and pieces and you don't mix these up. That's going to lead to a whole bunch of consternation when you go to your final layout and realize that you have 16 of these and 4 of these. You definitely want to make sure everything is labeled and counted as you're stitching it and putting it together. Yes, so the don't category. Don't forget to mirror your cuts. Don't assume it's the same as a half square triangle. Don't stretch it. You're ironing, not pressing. And don't mix up your fabric orientation. Now, this is something I'm going to harken back to one of the shows that Dominic did, where he was talking about warp and weft. And so I know those are technical words. We don't necessarily talk about warp and weft a lot. But when you're cutting these shapes from your yardage, I am going to encourage you to cut your rectangle in the same orientation. It does not matter if you're cutting them all with the fabric or if you're cutting them all run of fabric, but make sure you cut them all the same direction so that way your bias edges are consistent. If you have some that you cut this way and you want to be super efficient and you start cutting some this way, the warp and the weft are going to stretch differently in the fabric. So make sure when you're cutting your rectangles, they're all either with the fabric or they're all run of fabric, but make sure they're all cut from the same orientation in all the fabrics you use. Otherwise, you're going to start pulling your hair out because your top fabrics are going to start stretching differently than your back fabrics, and it is going to be a mess. So make sure you're cutting them out the same. That is a huge tip and trick. Dominic reminded me of that this morning. He's like, Mom, we talked about warp and weft. Make sure just to remind everyone about warp and weft. Let's see here. Job carefully with that bottle. It rarely improves my sewing. I'm kidding. Let's see here. We do have a few colorways left of pre-cut kits. Yes. So Paula's going to remind me at this point. We do have a few colorways left of pre-cut kits. And so if you want to get these half rectangle triangles that do this, that have these corners cut and that are going to, you're not going to have to trim down, everything's going to come out fantastic. You can still get in on those. Now, what we are going to recommend for all these projects is to sew a test piece to help build your confidence. This is exactly what we're talking about with the long arm, right? You want to start on a test piece. And so I did all of these samples with paper. I don't know if you guys noticed, this is not really fabric, it's paper. And so if you want to get comfortable in your own mind of what's left and right, Block Lock, I think is BLOCLOC. Michelle, I think it's Block Lock with no Ks. So if you want to start practicing, you guys can cut out this paper. Paper is cheap. Paper is easy. That way you can get used to your machine. You can get used to your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, understanding these folds are not going to be the same as fabric. Fabric's going to be a little bit thicker. So if that 1/8 of an inch is super important, but just getting in your mind, even the concept of stitching them this way, using paper is a fantastic way to start because if you make a mistake, you just throw it away. Like there's no harm, no foul here, right? So getting used to kind of creating the tips on your dress shirt, paper is a fantastic way to start. I'm also going to suggest that you guys get scraps of fabric, right? Things that you want to be able to just run through your machine to get used to your 1/4 inch. For all of our cotton cuts pieces, we shipped you what you need. So I'm going to recommend everyone start with one. Play with it. If you're finding that it's not coming out correctly, even after following our helpful tips and instructions, reach out to us. We can get you more in the mail, but start with one. Please don't sew all, and I think it's 96. Please don't sew all 96 of them. And then whatever number it is, I'm making this up. I really should probably look at the instructions for next week before saying a number like that. But however many you have to make, please don't sew all of them and then press all of them and then be sad that you're just a little bit off. And now instead of 3.5 by 6.5, they're 3 1/4 by 6 7/8. That would be super bad. So let's make sure that you guys are practicing all of these, especially since this is new for so many of you. Practice all of these. And, just make sure that you're asking all those questions. If you get stuck, we are here to help. If you get stuck, the Facebook group is a fantastic place to go for help. We want you to finish these quilts. I want to say that again. We want you to finish these quilts. We want you to be happy with the outcome. And I know that this is a new skill and it's hard for a lot of people, but it is so easy with the pre-cut parts and pieces, and we will help you and we will help hold your hand to get through it. All right. And Jo was saying she wanted the autumn, she wanted Sojourn, and then the 5th pot fabric from whoever she could find. So extra fabric. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So Jo, you'll be able to participate. And like I said, the Mystery 50 team did a really good job putting together a tutorial on how to use this ruler. So if you have to shop your own stash or if you've done a cut from the bolt, they're going to help you guys get there using a couple different methods as well. But also just be mindful of the things that I've told you guys today about the left facing and right facing, and just making sure, especially since you're cutting your triangles, we didn't cut them for you. Make sure that you get the right number in the right orientation. Once you've made your test blocks, chain piece. Once you've got that methodology down, chain piecing for consistency, rather than piecing one, pressing it, measuring it, piecing one, pressing it, and measuring it. Once you know the methodology that works for your sewing machine, for your presser foot, make sure that you're just chain piecing those and getting them all done as quickly as you can, just so that way they're consistent, because I've always been a big fan of consistency. As long as you're consistent, everything will work out at the end. So just chain piecing to make sure you're being as consistent as possible. And make sure you keep everything organized. I feel like, let's see here. Can we request we do a pre-cut kit of Heather Briggs' Block of the Men So Quilt Room? We will take that note, Michelle, because we are looking at doing more pre-cut kits into next year. So we will definitely take a look to see if that will fit in our repertoire, in our calendar. Let's see here. All right. I think that's really everything I want to talk about. I hit the warp and the weft, the dimensions, the sizing, the shape. So yes, this is all coming, gang. And I know that we're going to see a lot more of this, especially as we have 2 major patterns coming up that are using this. So please don't be afraid. Ask questions. We're all here to learn. If you make a mistake, it's really okay. It's just fabric. We can help you replace a couple triangles here or there if it's needed. All right. So thank you guys so much for hanging with me to the end of the show. As we do every week, we have a giveaway. However, we're going to do a special giveaway. We're not going to do a $25 gift certificate. We are actually going to give away one of these guys because I know there's a global shortage of these. This is like super hot. Paula just fell out of her chair. Paula, take one off the website. Quickly. Paula thinks she's going to win this week. I think I need to start having the disclaimer, like employees and family members not eligible to win. But given that there's a global shortage of these guys, right, because they are in such high demand, we're going to give away one of these. And this is like, I mean, normally it's a $25 gift card. I feel like we're up in the ante here. Plus, you guys have hung with me to the end and heard everything about these and are going to be off and running. And you're going to want to use it by cutting with it. So let's get off with it. So find this video on Instagram, on YouTube, or Facebook, and answer this question to be entered to be one person who's going to win this ruler. So the question to answer is, what is something related to quilting that you used to think was hard, but is now easy? Okay, I'm going to ask that question again. What is something related to quilting that you used to think was hard, but is now easy? Okay, so I have a couple answers to this. So I, for some reason, used to think like quilting, not stitching in the ditch was really, really hard. And I used to think that was something that it was impossible for me to do. And once you do it once or twice, it's done and it's easy. I used to think paper piecing was really hard, and then you did it once and twice, and now like I'm off and running. So what is something that related to quilting that you used to think was hard, but now is easy? And I hope for you guys, this is something that was once hard, but in a couple of weeks will now be easy. Oh, binding, Jacqueline, that is a fantastic answer. Binding, a half square, anything. Yes, hold on one second. All of these things, right? Anything that you used to think was hard, but is now easy. This is no different, guys. This is something you think is hard, but is now easy. Half rectangle, triangle. Sheila, that's fantastic. Sewing the last long seam as I finish a quilt stop. Flying geese. Yes, I think Amy, you're on it, man. Those flying geese, that used to be hard. I think that I had in my mind that it would be horrible. And then I learned a couple new tips and tricks, and now I have no problem at all. I used to think paper piecing was hard, but then discovered freezer paper piecing and even use it for a lot. That was from Gail. Gianna says, you guys are putting these fast and furious. All right, so I'm going to let you guys keep reading these comments. These are some fantastic Dresden plates and pinwheels. So Terry, if those are easy for you, you are my hero. Nesting seams, yes, tall Gail. I feel that. And then rotary cutting straight stripes, yes, Tina. Those stripology rulers are real. Those are definitely helpful. All right. Keep those answers coming in. We're going to announce the very lucky winner tomorrow of this very hard to find ruler. Don't forget, as you get to these half rectangle triangles, ask questions, seek support. If you're cutting from if you're shopping your stash or cutting from the bolt, please practice a couple of times. If you're using our pre-cut pieces, please practice a couple times. Like I said, we will have an in-depth tutorial on how to sew them. Let's see here. Island hopping is off and running. Flyaway comes to a finish tomorrow, and it's November. So we're like in the mad sprint towards the finish line, known as the end of the year. That is it for me today, gang. What? Oh, sorry. So tomorrow we're going to announce the theme of the next puzzle mystery quilt. I think you guys, I might have dropped it once or twice here before, but during the live, we'll drop the next theme of the mystery quilt. If you are a flyaway detective, there will be a special card in your month to month. If you're a monthly detective, there'll be a special card. Do not throw it away. It has all the information for signing up for the next one, including your discount code, including the special website to go to. So please don't throw that card away. You're going to want to put it on a bulletin board and hold onto it. All right, boss, did I miss anything? She says I got it. All right. That is it for me, gang. I will see you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I will see you guys on Saturday during our live sew-in. I hope everyone gets tons of sewing in the next couple days, and I can't wait for us to talk soon. That's all for us. Happy sewing, and bye now. And cut. thank you so much for watching our video. We have so much fun making these, and we hope that you were both delighted and inspired by what you just watched. This video was sponsored by Cotton Cuts. Cotton Cuts is your one stop for all the best fabric and thread memberships. Love fabric? We've got you covered. Love thread? We've got you covered. We get that no two quilters are cut from the same cloth, which is why our memberships are as unique as you. We also have the largest block of the month in the world. Over 4,000 detectives solve our puzzle mystery quilts every year, and you can join them. Simply go to cottoncuts.com to learn more about all the awesome and fun things that we're doing. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe to make sure you get all of our new fresh content every time it comes out. Thank you so much. Happy sewing enthusiasts, and we will see you soon. Bye now.